The Italian M-346 could become a mothership aircraft for Italian-Turkish loyal Wingman drones. In recent weeks, Leonardo has announced the start of flight tests dedicated to the joint use of piloted aircraft and unmanned platforms. The activities are scheduled for mid-year and are part of the development of operations that will soon lead human pilots to collaborate during missions, with unmanned aircraft working closely together, delegating risky tasks to less expensive aircraft and, most importantly, without humans on board. An initial test campaign is scheduled between April and May and will be conducted confidentially. A second phase, however, is planned according to sources for a later date and will be made public, so we will tell you about it. No details have been provided about the locations of the tests or the operational specifics of the missions you might remember. In the past, there was already talk about the role of the 346 as a low-cost aircraft, which, with the necessary modifications, could even become a loyal Wingman drone in the future, or at least the base to start from for the development of drones connected to the GCAP program. In this specific case, the proposal would be to keep the two-seater aircraft as a mothership, which you can use to coordinate the activities of Baykar's drones. Actually, I need to clarify something. The name of the Turkish company should already tell you something, since Turkey is a country where the drone industry has been thriving in recent years, also due to geopolitical reasons. In fact, the country still offers relatively low-cost alternatives to countries with limited budgets or political constraints. For example, just think of a Kinsi or Tibit TB3. In recent months, you may remember that the Italian industry has been at the center of several changes, with Baykar as a key player, for example acquiring Piaggio Aerospace. But staying on today's topic, Leonardo and Baykar have also signed agreements to draw on each other's expertise and market access through LPA system, which is a joint venture between the two companies. It is from this partnership that the drones are being developed, which we will probably see tested with Leonardo's 346. And these should be the already existing Kiwi Kizilelma in the Turkish market, but it will also be produced in Italy. I'll leave a map here for you. In fact, the production activities will be distributed throughout our country. To mention two logos for you. In Ronci dei Legionari, in Friuli Venezia Giulia, the final assembly of the TB3 and the integration of sensors and armaments will take place. Meanwhile, in Grottagli, the Kiwi Kizilelma will actually be built, which many consider as a possible Wingman drone for the 346. Before continuing, I'm going to take a break to introduce today's sponsor, Snap History, a free app created and managed by young Italian students who have chosen to support today's episode. If you love history, Snap History brings you short history tidbits with curiosities and facts from the past directly to your phone. An interesting feature of the app, in an age when we're always in a hurry, is actually the ability to listen to the article while you're doing something else. But be careful. Even though the tidbits condense the news, at the end of each story, you'll find the bibliography if you're interested in learning more about the topic. If you want, I'll leave the direct link to download Snap History for free on your phone in the first comment, but of course you can also easily do it from your app store. Alright, we started from the words of Leonardo, or rather Cingolani, to understand what we might see in the future, namely the 346 combined with Italian-Turkish hybrid drones, and we refreshed our memory about the cooperation between Turkey and Italy. One thing I haven't told you though is that Cingolani talked about this new development in the same Leonardo presentation, where it was put down in black and white. The start of the tests on the architecture, Michelangelo Dome in Ukraine, we told you about it in a recent episode. So the 346 with drones could become part of the kill chain, sorry for the English term, once a threat is identified. But earlier, I mentioned the GCAP, because in fact in the future, it will be necessary to create a Wingman drone to assign to the new 6th generation fighter jet. And as I told you, it has been suggested to start from the 346 to develop an unmanned platform. So, I can't help but tell you in today's episode about some news that concerns the GCAP and Poland. In fact, we've often given you some reports about the interest from India, Saudi Arabia, and the possible involvement of other countries like Germany. When will someone finally decide to publicly say that the FCAS has crashed? But as far as I remember, I don't think I've ever mentioned Poland to you. According to sources, the country has started discussions for possible participation in the program with confirmations from representatives of the Polish government. Warsaw, despite having a national defense industry, does not have any particular platforms. Germany, an indigenous country, has also been at the center of numerous contracts with countries that are very far away, such as the United States or South Korea. As far as the armored component is concerned, however, the country also keeps a close eye on its own industrial fabric and know-how. By purchasing initial batches of vehicles from foreign countries, but then later bringing production in-house with easily understandable effects on the local economy. To give you some concrete data, Lorenzo Ghidini, using data from SIPRI, paints a very clear picture. Warsaw is currently the second largest importer of armaments in Europe, with the small and insignificant detail that Ukraine is also included in the count. But if we look at the data for European countries within NATO, Poland holds the first place. Gold medal. For context, I want to point out that defense spending, defense expenditures in 2026 relative to GDP, they should reach almost 5%, with a good portion of the programs funded by the European SAFE program, where the technical characteristics allow individual armament programs to be included. In the case of Poland joining the GCAP program, it is therefore possible that the country's contribution could be financial, with Poland joining as a junior partner compared to the core group formed by Italy, the United Kingdom, and Japan. Whenever you bring in other countries, there are always risks. To semi-quote my friend and analyst Leonardo Lanzara, if you decide to go on vacation, it's always better. A small group of friends with a clear idea of what they want to do is better than a large group of friends. To try to lower the cost with the risk of ending up eating pizza with pineapple. Translated, I think it's clear that every country has requests based on its own doctrine and strategy, on its own needs. The more countries join the GCAP, the greater the risk of not satisfying anyone. From this point of view, it will be up to the current leaders, Italy, Great Britain, and Japan, to try to clearly define the roles of the new partners. Well, Benedetto, that's all for today. I remind you to go check out Snap History, which supports us in this educational program. And if you want to support us too, it's very simple. Leave a like, a comment, and share this video on your social media. See you soon on Gens Italia with the latest news.